When I bought my new house, I thought I had finally found a peaceful place to start over. After a year of stress, unstable jobs, and failed relationships, I needed a quiet, private space to recover. The house was located in a calm suburban area, a place where I could feel safe and secure. It was a two-story house, old but sturdy, and the best part was that it was surprisingly affordable. The moment I stepped inside, I immediately felt like I belonged there. Everything was perfect, from the pristine white walls to the large window overlooking the lush garden. Everything seemed flawless, until night fell. At first, everything was normal. I unpacked my things, arranged them according to my taste, and enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere. But then, one night, as I lay down in bed, preparing to fall asleep, I heard a strange sound. Thud. Thud. It was footsteps. At first, I thought I was just imagining things. Maybe it was the wind, or perhaps someone was walking outside. But then, the sound came again. This time, it was clearer. The footsteps were coming from somewhere inside the house. I tried to convince myself it was just the creaking of an old house, the natural sounds of wood shifting as temperatures changed. But these footsteps didn't sound like that. Thud. Thud. The footsteps, one step at a time, echoed through the hallway. I sat up in bed, nervously glancing around the room. There was no one there. The house was empty. It was just me. I hurriedly turned on the light, and my heart raced. The footsteps seemed to be moving toward my bedroom. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. It's just the house, I reassured myself. I stood up and walked out into the hallway. But as I reached the stairs, the sound suddenly stopped. I turned around, unsure of what to do next. But when I returned to my room, I noticed something strange. The door to my room was slightly open. I clearly remembered locking it earlier and hadn't opened it since. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I slowly walked up to the door and closed it. I didn't know what was happening, but I didn't want to stand there anymore. I climbed back into bed, pulled the covers up to my neck, and tried to shake off the feeling. I was too exhausted to think about it. The next morning, I decided to find out more about the history of the house. I visited a friendly older neighbor I had seen a few times. She gave me a strange look when I asked about the house. "Oh, that house, it's been a long time since anyone lived there. After the previous owners moved out, no one lasted long," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "There are stories, of footsteps in the house, of shadows passing by the windows at night. No one really knows for sure, but many people have left." My blood ran cold. Why hadn't I heard these stories before buying the house? But now it was too late. I couldn't leave. I didn't want to let fear control me. This house was mine, and I wasn't going to let anything ruin my peace. However, after that night, the footsteps grew more persistent. They didn't just happen at night anymore. Sometimes, even when I was sitting in the living room, I could hear the sound of footsteps from upstairs. One evening, I decided to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight, and the sound led me to a room at the far corner of the second floor, one I had never stepped into. The door was locked, but somehow, that night, it opened easily as if someone was waiting for me. As I entered the room, a chilling gust of air swept over me. Everything in the room was covered in dust, but there was an eerie feeling, like the room had never been abandoned. And on the wall opposite, there was a large painting. A disturbing painting of a family, blurred faces, eyes full of sorrow and rage. Suddenly, the footsteps started again, but this time, they weren't from the hallway. They were coming from inside the painting. The footsteps moved along with each step, advancing toward me. My heart pounded. I bolted out of the room, slammed the door shut, and vowed never to return. The next day, I decided to leave the house. Not because it wasn't beautiful, but because the sense of safety I once felt was gone. The footsteps still echoed in my mind, each time the night fell. That house was never really mine. And now, I had become part of the story it carried. Now, the house stands silent in the darkness, and the footsteps still continue, waiting for the next person to come and become a part of its dark past. After I left the house, I tried to forget everything, telling myself that it had just been some strange experience that I couldn't explain. But the nightmares never stopped. The footsteps followed me into my dreams, and sometimes, they felt so real, as if they were right beside me. Even though I had moved to a new place, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. A week after I moved out, I ran into the elderly neighbor again. She looked at me with knowing eyes, as though she had expected this. "Did you leave already?" she asked, her voice oddly calm. "Yeah. I couldn't take it anymore." "There's something wrong with that house," I replied, anxiety creeping into my voice. "Can you tell me more about it?" She gave me a faint smile, one that seemed tinged with regret. "Many people have tried to live there, but no one can. That house, it's cursed. The footsteps aren't just sounds. They're part of the curse." She went on to explain the house's dark history. Years ago, that house belonged to a family. A very unhappy family. The husband killed his wife and then committed suicide in the children's bedroom. That night, people heard footsteps. The footsteps didn't stop. People said it was the souls trapped there, unable to rest. Since then, no one could stay in that house for long. The footsteps, they never stop. They're waiting for someone to take their place. Her words made my blood run cold. I didn't want to believe it, but what I had experienced in that house was undeniable. I had to know the truth. Despite my fear, I decided to dig deeper. I searched through old documents, interviewed people who had lived there, and the more I uncovered, the more terrifying it became. Everyone who had lived there had left after just a few months. They all had the same story: strange noises, footsteps that followed them, and an overwhelming sense of dread that made it impossible to stay. The footsteps returned, but this time they didn't just plague my dreams. They followed me during the day, echoing through my apartment, haunting me even when I was awake. Then, one evening, I received a strange call. "Hello," a man's voice came through the line. "I'm the one who bought your house. Can you help me with something?" I was taken aback. Why would the new owner want to contact me? "What do you need?" "The house, it's not what I thought," he continued, his voice shaky. "Every night, I hear those footsteps. They're getting louder. It's like there's someone walking around in the house." Before I could say anything, I realized, this man was experiencing the same thing I had. But I couldn't just leave him to go through what I did. "You have to leave. Get out of there. Don't go back. That house, it's not a place for anyone to live." He didn't listen. A week later, I received a call from the police. The man was found dead in the house, his body frozen in terror, his eyes wide open as if he had seen something unspeakable. His entire family, who had visited the house the week before, had vanished without a trace. I couldn't help but feel that something terrible had happened, something far beyond my understanding. The footsteps were no longer following just me. They had begun to haunt others as well. I felt like a ghost, a part of the curse that clung to that place, and I realized I would never escape it. Now, the house remained in silence. But I knew the footsteps hadn't stopped. They were still out there, waiting. And I wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to outrun them. Despite everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had unfinished business with that house. The footsteps didn't stop haunting me. They followed me in my dreams, and sometimes, I felt their presence even when I was wide awake. It was like an invisible weight that pressed down on me, never allowing me to breathe freely. I had to go back. I had to confront whatever was waiting for me there.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. I really appreciate your time and hope to see you in the next video. Take care, and see you soon.